All right, everybody. It is 6:30 and I love to start on time. Well, sounds like we've got a great crowd here cheering for that little introduction. So welcome, everyone, to St Kilda Candidates Forum presented by TWiSK this week in St Kilda. I'm Bernadene Voss and that is Greg Day. Give him a round of applause. I'm not a resident of St Kilda, but I was the mayor of the city of Port Phillip for 4 terms. I was an independent councillor and I'll be an independent moderator for this event. First of all, we'll start off with the acknowledgement of country, especially in this beautiful place, and that is we respectfully acknowledge the traditional owners of this land, the people of the Kulin Nations. We pay our respects to the elders past and present, and we acknowledge and uphold their continuing relationship to this land. And welcome to the live stream audience also. This event is being recorded and will be available on TWiSK. So why are we here? This week, most of you will receive a postal vote for the election of the new St Kilda Ward Councillor. Your vote must be mailed back by the 25th of October. For your vote to count, you must number every square on the ballot. Not only do you need to decide your first vote, but also your next 5 preferences. Failure to do so will mean it's an invalid vote. The winner of this election will be decided by your preferences. That's why we need to hear from all the candidates, because you are entitled to know where they stand and to decide your crucial preferences. So tonight's all about the candidates. It's also about your questions. It's also about fairness and respect. And with that, I did want to let you know that we only have 5 candidates on the podium here, as one candidate sent to Greg and myself today this email. Dear Greg, Bernadene and audience, I regret to inform you, and by the way, this is from Jenni Roper, I should have said that straight up front, the other candidate. I regret to inform you that I will be unable to attend tonight's candidate forum. Over the past few days, I have been subjected to personal attacks, bullying and intimidating behaviour, targeting my campaign and family. This has included unwarranted criticism on social media, as well as the distribution of campaign material from unrelated political groups opposing my candidacy. Unfortunately, this negativity has taken a toll on my well-being, and after careful consideration, I have made the difficult decision to prioritise my mental health by withdrawing from tonight's event. I have reported certain incidents to the police and I'm taking steps to address this concerning behaviour. While I'm deeply disappointed to miss this event important opportunity to engage with you all, I hope you understand my reasons. Kind regards, Jenni Roper. So, and that's why I'm talking about fairness and respect tonight. So please keep it friendly and give every candidate a fair hearing. Applause is welcome, as we heard before. Yay. But please don't heckle and please don't interject. Listen. As the moderator for this event, I request you to be brief. All of you to be brief. I will not tolerate personal attacks or accusations. Please. Do you all agree? Thank you very much. Tonight, about the first half hour is devoted to the candidates, and we'll hear why they are standing and what is their most burning issue. From about 7 p.m, we'll start taking audience questions, and we'll give each candidate a 1-minute opportunity to respond. So audience, get those questions ready. But we are going to require you to limit your questions to 30 seconds. because we want to hear from the answers from the candidates. So get crafting those short, sharp, important questions. Now, let's introduce the candidates. I'm going to read these in ballot order. Ballot number 1 positions Jenni, independent candidate. Then we have number 2, Tim Baxter, Greens candidate. We have Serge Thomann, Independent People Empowering Port Phillip candidate. We have number 4, David Blakeley, Independent. We have Colleen Bolger, Victorian Socialists. And we have Robbie Nyaguy, Labor candidate. Welcome to you all. Give them a round of applause and make them feel welcome. Okay, so now we'll start by inviting each candidate to the podium for 2 minutes to answer these crucial questions. Why me? And why St Kilda? So Greg Day from TWiSK has a bell. And he'll keep time and ring the bell when you have 10 seconds left. And then furiously, how would that look? Yes, when time is up. So without further ado, we will start with, who's number 2? Tim. Come up to the podium, Tim. Would you like this one?
Yeah, maybe I can. No, all right. We'll hold it. That's all right. Okay. All right. Cool. Can everyone hear me? Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you, Bernadene, and hi everybody. I'm Tim Baxter. Also want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that we're on today and pay my respects. Look, the question, why me and why St Kilda? It's kind of combined, really. I mean, I love St Kilda. St Kilda's the first place my family lived when they came to Australia from Spain. That my parents met here. That I've spent a lot of time here working and enjoying everything that we have here. And I don't need to bore you with all of the things that are wonderful about St Kilda, which is, you know, the arts and culture, just the actual urban design and landscape, the proximity to the city, the parks, the foreshore, all of these things are wonderful, and we all know that. So that's really why I am running in St Kilda. I feel like I can make that impact. I feel like we can make sure that our streets and our public spaces and those places where people congregate are wonderful and inviting and enhance the livability of the area, that it's a wonderful place to live, that people can get around, build community, create things, have thriving businesses, and all of those things that make the area so wonderful. So that's why St Kilda. And I guess why me? Look, I'm two-term councillor. I feel like I have the experience and the knowledge and an understanding of how council works and how to get positive progressive change on council. And I would love another opportunity to continue to apply that for another term. So I have no idea how long that took, but that's probably short and sweet. So thanks, everyone. Cheers.
Thank you, Tim. Next up, we have Serge Thomann.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming. I would also like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owner of the land and pay my respect to the elders, especially Auntie Jacko, who has endorsed me for my candidacy, and which means a lot to me. A big thank you to Greg for organizing this forum. I'm particularly thrilled that this forum takes place at Victorian Pride Centre, a project very close to my heart, as I planted the first seed and worked on the expression of interest right until my very last day, even doing caretaker with the officers as the expression of interest was due. This is not just a building. For me, it's a perfect fit for Fitzroy Street and St Kilda because of its history. It provides a safe and inclusive space for the LGBTIQ+ community, and it plays a key role in the revitalization of Fitzroy Street. It's a word I can't say. So many of you know me. Like 39% of Australians, I wasn't born here, but I've called Port Phillip my home for 41 years, and 27 spent here in St Kilda, a place I truly love. Becoming a councillor wasn't something I ever planned, even though my father was a mayor in my town. But I had the privilege of serving as a council and deputy mayor for 8 years, and during my time, my passion for this community has even deepened. So I've been asked to stand for council by many people over the years. In recent months, before taking my decision, I've listened closely to residents, and they are asking very clearly what they would like. They want to have fresh, energized council. They want a councillor who lives in the ward and truly understands local issues, an independent voice free from party politics and special interest, experienced leadership, deeply involved in local organization, and above all, someone approachable, committed, and ready to listen. I'm running because I know I can meet those expectations. Together with 6 other independent, talented candidates from PEP, People Empowering Port Phillip, we are committed to partner with you to bring our shared vision to life, a greener, more engaged, better managed, safer, fairer, cleaner, and more vibrant city. And I know that together we can make this happen.
Thank you, Serge. Now, David Blakeley.
Thanks. Now, first, why do I love St Kilda? I can walk down the street and not get egged for wearing these clothes. Sorry, guys, I've lost. I've won the election already. I'm David Blake, and my protection shoes. I'm David Blakeley. I've been the president of Fitzroy Street Traders for 5 years. It might actually be longer. I was discussing to Bernadene a while ago. I've been a resident for 30 years. My family's had an association in the area for 100 years. I've invested my life in St Kilda. We have a business in St Kilda. I've got children in St Kilda, Exhibit A down the front there. And it's where my heart is. Simply it is. There's nowhere else I could live but St Kilda. Being the Fitzroy Street Traders president, I'm a hard worker and dogmatic, and I don't give up. You know, we have things worth fighting for. I have the ability to work with others. You hope you know I'm sitting between two commies there, 2 socialists or 3 socialists. I mean, I have the ability to work with all others and respect the reviews and work on how to make things better. I love what we've achieved together as councillors. I like finding solutions, achievable solutions, be from the lighting on the other side of Fitzroy Street, which needs a bit more of a tweak, to Colin Shepherd's art lane, to the mural on the corner here. And I think outside the box. I think we need to think fresh, and we need to embrace a lot of views which have come across the street the last couple of days. Let's face it, working for Fitzroy Street, and I do live near St Kilda, it's a hard task, and that's why you need someone who's dedicated like myself to be a councillor. Why St Kilda? Why not? I was asked, a former mayor recently said, why don't you go to another seat where you get a better chance of getting in? And I said, well, it's not St Kilda. My heart's not there. It's not going to mean anything to me being running for another seat. But thank you.
Colleen, you're up next.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be the first Victorian Socialist candidate in St Kilda. A little bit of our background as a relatively new party. We contested just one upper house seat in 2018 in the northern suburbs, and have since expanded to running for council, state and federal seats in the north and then the west. And this time we're running 80 candidates for council across the Melbourne and some regional areas. And so it's an expansion for us as a relatively new party that is trying to build an more left and radical community-oriented party as an alternative to particularly Labor and the Greens. I think we bring a more community activist approach to the issues that we stand on. My own background is as both having been an organiser and activist for the entirety of my adult life on issues around refugee rights and Palestine in particular, particularly prescient today and over the last year. And I've brought those skills into seeing how important that is as a trade union organiser, not organiser, but delegate, rather an activist in my workplace. And I think it's the same kind of skills that lend themselves to being a candidate for council, which is you need to roll up your sleeves, get involved with the issues that people are passionate about, and because many voices are much more powerful than just one, particularly if we want more radical change that I think is absolutely necessary.
Thank you, Colleen. And we'll hear from our final first speaker, first time, Robbie.
Thanks, Bernadene. Thank you for having me here. Firstly, I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land. Why me? Why St Kilda? I think because I've loved representing this area for the last year and a half. It's been an incredible honour, and I would love to keep doing it. I think St Kilda is one of the most exciting parts of the world, if not one of the most difficult and challenging. It's always changing. I think that's the thing that I find so exciting about working in this space. It is a place that has such a strong emotional response when I talk to someone about it. Whenever I speak to someone about St Kilda, they always explode with a kind of love that is different to other suburbs, it's different to other parts of Melbourne and different parts of other communities. But it's a strong and special place, and that's something I want to fight for and keep representing. I think I also have I brought energy and enthusiasm. I'm the youngest councillor at the moment on council, and I've tried to bring a fresh perspective and a fresh energy to council over the last year and a half. But I also bring experience. I'm the only councillor, and I believe I'm the only candidate in this ward to have executive government experience. I've worked in state government and a bit in the federal as well. I bring that understanding of how we can get things done. I think one of the biggest challenges at the moment in Port Phillip is we're constantly stuck in a loggerhead. We need to find ways to work through the challenges we face, to have a clarity around our vision for the future, and then to chart that course forwards. And I think we can do it. I want us to do it, and I really want to be a part of that. Thank you.
Thanks, Robbie. Okay, so that was what we call segment 1, and you've heard from the candidates why me and why St Kilda. Now we'll go to segment 2, which is burning issue. So thank you, everyone, there for your time. We know there are many issues, but we want to hear what the candidate's most important issue is. So, candidates, this is now your chance to go into a little bit more depth about the issue you are most passionate about. Each candidate will have 2 minutes, and the 10-second bell will happen again. Won't it, Greg? Yeah. Okay, so we'll start with Tim.
Thanks, Bernadene. All right. Obviously, there are a number of values that guide what I think the important issues are for this area. But one of the important things that I've made sure to do this campaign is actually to go and knock on doors and speak to as many residents as possible. I'm getting some people nodding at me who I have done off. And really, it's interesting because obviously what council can achieve, I can talk to you about that, about the influence we can have on the streetscape, the greening, the impact we can have on what built form looks like, and so on. When I talk to people on the doors, they say we're worried about housing, we're worried about cost of living, and that's almost always what they want to talk about. I think we need to be able to respond to that as well. So certainly, my burning issues would be cleaner, greener and safer streets, where we can make streets that are available for all people to use, all road users, whether you're in a car or not, that are green and inviting and wonderful to live in. But when I'm talking to people on the doors, they're telling me they want council to build social housing. They want council to be doing what it can to alleviate the housing crisis that we're in at the moment. They want council to fund those food services that are absolutely strapped at the moment and have seen subscription rates of 600% increases of people lining up to receive food parcels, the kind of people who they've never seen before from households that have never had to try and get that help. So I think council, when the going gets tough, absolutely needs to step in and take care of its communities in a range of different ways and respond to what people are telling us they absolutely need. So there's a couple of things there.
Thank you, Tim. We have Serge.
As I explained before, we've got 7 key pillars for our engagement, and I've chosen to focus on one that's is close to my heart and is to have a more engaged city. An engaged city starts with a shared vision where the council is respected, valued, and trusted by its residents. Right now, there is a real disconnect, even a sense of mistrust between council and the community. This really saddens me. But I imagine a city where this can be fixed, where everybody can feel connected, actively involved, and genuinely consulted. So to close this gap, we've developed a plan to build stronger synergy between the city and its people. It starts with greater councillor involvement at a ward level. I propose the creation of a ward panel, which is a committee group that meets quarterly to foster open, two-way dialogues. Council will not only share updates, but also listen to the residents' concern, while at the same time nurturing the next generation of community leaders or councillors. Regular town hall meetings will further strengthen this direct engagement. I also would like to launch a program that I've called My Ideas for My Hood, a program where residents can propose small projects at a local level to improve their neighborhoods. This initiative will empower citizens to actively participate in shaping our city, imagining a place where full of art, music, culture, reflecting the vibrancy and diversity of our community. Additionally, I plan to establish several new bodies to support the city's cultural and social fabric. The Port Phillip Cultural Foundation, as I described at the Arts Forum, and I've received amazing feedback from most of the arts organizations in the city to say it was a great idea, I would like to have a high-level reference group to collaborate with the St Kilda Triangle development alongside the business case that at long last, hopefully the city will take, and to help. And also, I'd like to have a stakeholder group to address ongoing issues affecting Ackland and Fitzroy Street. And to finish off, I'd like to have an online community panel that can be contacted all the time for important decisions. It is ambitious, but it's achievable. It's a goal to foster a city where everybody works together, creating a more engaged, connected community, a city built on civic pride where every resident feels a deep sense of belonging and shared responsibility.
Thank you, Serge. David, you're up next.
Thank you. Closer, is that better? I share a lot of views expressed before. We want an inclusive city moving forward. I moved here for a diverse community. And I'm talking tonight, although I'm talking about the high streets, I'm talking as a resident first. So when you think about St Kilda, which thing do you think is the most pressing issue in St Kilda? And generally it's the state of Fitzroy Street and Ackland Street. I mean, what we need to do, it provides the social capital and the glue that keeps us together. And unfortunately, there's a lack of connection with locals, and St Kilda works fabulously on a hot summer's night. How do we make it work on a cold winter's day? So looking forward, I mean, we have a lack of foot traffic. Today, actually, I met with Nina Taylor, and I met with the police last week about what lack of foot traffic brings negative problems to the street, on solutions that not just involve policing, but also involve health services. How do we connect the services to these streets to tackle things? How do we improve things? I think we need to support businesses, activate their shops outside, encourage businesses to activate, fill the dead spaces. Ackland Street needs greening. I'm sorry, the tram's not going anywhere. Let's look forward, don't look backwards. Let's how we green the street, make it look like Greville Street, for example. Victoria Street's lighting. We need not too light because it looks a bit unkind on some of us. what you can do about safety, how you make a street feel better with lighting. But nothing is going to improve these streets unless we re-establish a connection with locals. And we need a daytime trade, particularly this street. And as before, I've had a proven record of thinking outside the box. We had a consultant called Andrew Hoyne, and we looked at ways of investing these, getting retail businesses back on the street, or shops. I think fix of high streets, we're halfway there. And also make council easily to deal with. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Colleen.
Yes, thank you. We're in the midst of a major debate about housing affordability in this country, and I think that the local councils and candidates or councillors have a real role to play in both contributing to that debate from their experience of how housing is affecting our local area, but also in pulling the levers that are at council's disposal to ensure that there is affordable housing available to those who need it. I think one of the key levers that council can pull is to make sure that with new developments there are requirements that the developers who make enormous profit from building high density housing have to provide some of that housing on an affordable housing basis. But there are problems with social and affordable housing as well, because they are linked to the market rents, which we all know have gone up astronomically over the last couple of years. So we also, and this is where the advocacy comes in, need to be advocating for public housing. It's a travesty, I think, that the state government have planned to demolish the public housing towers, particularly in South Melbourne. And I think the council has a role to push back again, to work with residents and to push back against those sorts of things. But I also think that the housing question touches on two other major questions for our community, which are climate change and the environment, as well as the cost of living crisis that people are facing. I think the council should be supporters of things like rent freezes to assist the many, many renters in this area. And I think they should be demanding certain standards to make sure that new housing development is sustainable, things like mandating solar panels, double glazing and other measures that mean people's bills come down, but also that are contributing to lowering our emissions. So I think housing is a really key question and will be over the next 4 years.
Thank you, Colleen. And Robbie.
I'd certainly agree with all of those issues. I think they're all very important, and it's tempting to talk about the climate emergency or the housing emergency that we face at the moment, but I actually think the number one job that I see for myself and I see for the incoming council is ultimately it's about dealing with the challenge that we have at council with how we listen and how we speak to our community. We have a crisis of democracy in a way. We have a really degraded and toxic relationship at times with our community at the moment. And amongst ourselves at council. And I think if we can't overcome that challenge, then we will continue to make decisions that aren't necessarily the best ones for our community, and we won't get the best results, and we won't be able to leverage the talent, the enthusiasm, the expertise of our community. I sort of see the role of a councillor and a councillor as one where we're drawing the lines in a colouring in book, but ultimately it's the residents that colour in the drawing. They're the ones that decide the colours, the kind of clarity around what we actually end up making our community like. And I think a council, when it's working really well, does that really well with our community, and I want our council to do that really well with our community again. And it's a full spectrum of how we engage with our community, from the kind of democracy side stuff when we're voting in the council chamber, through our community engagement work when we're sending out surveys and asking our community how you want council to deliver a particular project or a service, right through to how we respond to you when you ask us a question or submit a complaint or tell us that your bin has been not been collected. All of those interactions with our community need to be ones, in my view, that are ultimately positive. Ones where you feel that you were heard and that you feel that you understood what council was trying to tell you. We're not always going to agree. I think it's one of the most frustrating parts at council is that you can't please everyone. There's lots and lots of devilish decisions, but we have to find a way to cut through the toxicity and rebuild a positive and workable relationship with our community.
Thank you, Robbie. Okay, now, thank you, candidates. That was great to hear what your burning issues are. But now for the time many of you have been waiting for. Audience questions. Yay! So we need short questions and brief answers, candidates. Both will be timed by the dreaded bell. About 3 seats down, please. Yep. So both will be timed by the dreaded bell, and 30 seconds you have for questions and 1 minute for answers, candidates.
This is working.
It did work, yes, I heard you. So with 5 candidates responding, we'll probably get maybe 10 questions before our time runs out. So I want to maximise that. So please craft your questions well, and please spread the questions so that we can cover all the issues. If somebody's already asked a question close to you, please sit down, let somebody else have their question. Importantly, if we can't get to your question tonight, email them to Greg, and he'll publish them on TWiSK for candidate responses over the next week or so. So if you want to ask a question, you can form a queue behind that. Yes. He did. I've got those as backup. Yes, if you want to ask a question, please jump in the queue. And if you've already asked that question, to guarantee your question, you'll need to get in that queue. Yes, so thank you. We've already got quite a number there. We probably have time for, that's almost about it. So if you want to ask a question, please start with your name and please limit your question to 30 seconds. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Andrea Baker. I'm a long-term resident of St Kilda, and I've seen the homelessness in St Kilda get worse. You've all talked about cost of living and rental crisis, but what are you directly going to do about the homelessness in Fitzroy Street and Ackland Street?
Okay, all the candidates will answer that question. Who would like to go first? Tim, you've got the microphone.
Look, this is the question that comes up quite often. Obviously, there's a range of different kinds of homelessness, right? From street sleeping through to couch surfing, sleeping in cars, and so on. Obviously, building social housing, advocating for public housing, and other forms of affordable housing is a really important way to continue that pipeline of people being able to get into housing. But there's also supported housing that people need, and I think people who present with really complex issues, whether that be mental health, alcohol and other drugs, as well as homelessness, are obviously the most difficult ones to deal with, and simply building them somewhere to live is not going to solve their problems necessarily, right? So this requires an integrated approach. You need to work with the local services that are experts in whatever it might be, mental health or alcohol and other drugs and so on, to actually get people into supported housing so that they can then move on to living completely independently in housing.
Pass that to David, please, Tim.
The amount of time I've spent talking about this, including today with Nina Taylor, one of my commitments is to continue the funding towards zero. I'm not sure, hopefully everyone's aware of towards zero, and the current council should be really congratulated on it. And it's about housing homeless people, and they've housed most homeless people. There's separate problems. I mean, there's separate issues. There's homelessness, and also is people street camping. And it can be detrimental to your business. It can be detrimental to the local community, how they feel about their own street. I mean, but we need safety for all. And I'm agreeing with you, Tim, a lot here. We need to connect services. There's greater problems. We need to lobby state government for more services, mental health outreach. We need people to launch housing down on the street, to come out onto the streets and meet the people where they are. And the only way, these problems not unique to St Kilda, not unique to South Melbourne. It's a Melbourne-wide, worldwide issue, and particularly since COVID. And we need to...
Thanks, David. Pass over to Rob.
Get things busy.
Yeah, it's a devilish challenge. I think, part of it is obviously providing those services. I think the work we've been doing through Port Phillip Zero has been incredible, working with all the different service agencies and the police around connecting people and getting people off the street and getting them into housing and support services when they need it. I think it's really important. I think the other part of it really is about building more houses. And council's a lot of levers, and we pretend at times that we don't. The choices we make around zoning of land, the choices that we make around how quickly or how slowly we approve building applications makes a difference. The largest social housing project at the moment in Port Phillip is Barrack Beacon, and our council has, as we often do at local government, has badgered and belittled and dragged our feet on supporting that project. And so we have to be constructively building housing. I think we have a role to do that, but we also have to work with the state government to get social housing built and delivered. There's always going to be amenity challenges. People don't like big new housing developments in their area, but we have to find a way to work with the community and deliver that housing, because that is the urgent need. The more houses we build,
thanks, Robbie.
the more the solution is dealt with.
Over to Serge.
So building housing, new housing is something we have to do, but it takes time. So I think we need to find concrete solutions. Today, Beverly Pinder, who is part of our team, has spoken with Aaron Wood, and we're planning to, if Aaron becomes Mayor of Melbourne, the idea is for City of Port Phillip and City of Melbourne to actually work together on this issue and come up with solutions. It is, these issues existed when I was at council a few years ago, and it's not going to go away unless we do something very serious. And it's not just something happens here, it happens all over the state or the country. And we have to get all the best brains together to actually come up with a solution.
Thanks, Serge. Colleen.
It's an extremely difficult issue because it is about social problems that are often presented as intractable, that we can't build the houses fast enough, that we can't, there's not enough services to connect people with. But the reality is the intractability is at a state and federal level in terms of where funding is directed, and we need to do what we can at a council level and community level and maintain that these are social questions, not law enforcement issues. And I will never support measures that are about criminalising the people who are sleeping rough because they don't have access to an affordable roof over their head. I know that's not as satisfying an answer to say what I wouldn't do, rather than the difficult things that actually all of the candidates have just told you we need to grapple with in a much broader way. It's not a satisfying answer, but it is the necessary.
Thanks,
and
Colleen. All right. Apologies for cutting you off, but I'm going to be really... So we need to get to the audience questions. Next one.
Hello, I'm Catherine. I'm all about community. So I'm really interested to know about you as an individual, and what is your individual track record, and what have you personally done to contribute to the betterment of the St Kilda community and ward?
Thank you. We'll go with Robbie first. You've got the microphone there.
Probably at a local level in Port Phillip. I was on my school council for a number of years. I was on my local community centre board for a number of years as president. But I think probably since I've been in Port Phillip, when I moved out of home, I think probably the big thing I've done is be involved with the Community Alliance of Port Phillip. We ran a lot of different campaigns, and we really engaged on council issues day to day. I'm the kind of guy that wants to make the decisions be done better. I get engaged in the policy level, I get engaged on the advocacy level, and I found working with a bunch of really intelligent, engaged community members was really wonderful part of being in this community. We have so many people who have such a depth of knowledge in the area, and so yeah, that's probably the thing that in terms of community, that sort of warms my heart was my involvement with CAP.
Thanks, Robbie. Serge.
So on a personal level, I'm a board member of different organizations, like the Christchurch Community Centre, where I've run several fundraisers. on a business, on a level, on a restaurant, and I've given $1,000 worth of gift vouchers for every school or community group that is asking for something for a raffle lot. I think it's easier to give than to say no, and I think I want to be part of the community. I've obviously at council there's several projects that I run, but that's quite aware. And there was one more thing that I want to say, which escapes me. But I've been involved very clearly. I'm involved in the Pride Fund, which is a body that works with the Pride Centre, and I've raised several thousands of dollars and through different events that happen here, including cinema nights and other things. So these are the things that I've done on a personal level.
Thank you. Go to Colleen.
I think I've probably got a shorter resume of things that I've been involved with. I've lived in this area for the last 3 years, moving just the end of COVID back to St Kilda after living here at university. But I've recently gotten involved in Port Phillip for Palestine, and I've really enjoyed being able to organise and connect with other people in our area who have been passionate about the global issues and particularly the war on Gaza, and been active about it, but not known people within the community to connect with and try to have an impact here. And I think it is those skills as a community activist of trying to involve people and actually give people a sense of that even the biggest issues are things that we should concern ourselves about. We want to have a brilliant community, and that takes work, but we're also reading the papers every day, and the worst thing is to feel
Colleen.
like you can't do anything.
Please pass over to Tim.
Well, look, I think the support that for this place actually very early on when I got on the council, I think going above and beyond in helping make this happen, and obviously other councillors were involved as well. But the continuing support there is something I'm very proud of. Very long time ago, I used to run a nightclub on Fitzroy Street as well. I don't know whether I was contributing to the area or detracting from it, to be honest, but I know it well, so there's that. But obviously, I'm on a couple of local boards involved in local, mostly environmental and social justice groups, and just give where I can. Involved in when my kids were in childcare and kinder, would get involved in helping those out, and now obviously school stuff. So just general dad, community guy stuff, I think.
And David.
I'll start off with failure. I was a class rep for my daughter at St Kilda Primary, and I don't think they'll ask me back. With the business type stuff, and it's not all bland. I mean, I was a founding member of the Business Advisory Group, giving voice to the business community, which also includes things like tree coverage. I've been a voice for the live music scene, which employs so many people here. It's 2.5 million tickets sold in the area last year, and there'll be a collapse of local comedy without it. I've been a big supporter of getting the arts onto our streets. Be it, Linden has got a siding project which is with one of our traders, and I'm really excited about that and help that set up. I've helped set up Colin Shepherd's murals of don't stand too still, he'll paint you. But yeah, I guess I've been made a lot of connections. And one of the small things is not everyone's aware, but all the traders got their outdoor music turned off earlier this year, and I got that reversed, ambient music. And
thanks, David.
I'm happy allied the price.
Great question. Thank you very much for that. We'll take the next audience question, please.
Hi, my name's Tony McCutcheon. I'm a long-term resident and come from a family that's been very involved in social justice in St Kilda. But our concern at the moment is that St Kilda, and we've been here a very long time, feels particularly unsafe. And myself, my son, who's 19, just don't feel comfortable being on the streets. And so the things that you talk about are fantastic, but if you don't have people that live here and have lived here and seen a lot of stuff feeling comfortable on the streets, that's actually going to undermine anything that you could try to do, any programs that you try to do. I'm sure David knows quite well.
Question, please. Do you have a question?
I'd just like to hear your views on the crime scene, the crime in St Kilda the safety side of that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay.
In my view, crime's an economic issue. We are having a crisis of our economic system. The rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer, and as we slide towards almost certainly a recession, we see crime increase. It always happens every single time as people get more desperate and unable to meet their needs. Crime increases. So the only antidote to that really is an increase in social connection, more effort on getting people to meet together, gather together. I think the design of our public spaces is really important for that, and I think the empty shop fronts on some of our high streets really do contribute to the unwelcoming feel there. And filling those and getting that foot traffic and getting those people gathering there makes some of these people seem not quite so scary. But at the same time, you know, when it comes to people, you know, stealing stuff or whatever, this will happen in difficult economic times. And
Tim, we'll go to Colleen actually next. We'll go this way.
I actually think on top of it being an economic issue, it's often a mental health and drug addiction issue, and I am a supporter of having more, not less, safe injecting rooms as something that councils should work with the state government about. That's potentially an unpopular opinion, but I think it is necessary, and I think the problems that can come with that come from having only one in the case of Richmond, and there needs to be more because I think these, as well as being health issues, and I agree with Tim, economic issues, I think they're also health issues.
David, since you've got the microphone there.
Okay. Safety is a basic human right, and not feeling safe is very destructive for a community also. My thing is, it doesn't matter if it's got a flash shoe kicking you or someone's in a shoe, crime is crime. But it sits outside the council realm. It's a state issue. But there are things that council can do. Recently, I mean, one win I've had is the pop-up shops. If you saw Renew Australia, I argued with council they're going to give up the program. I argued with them, and we co-funded it. The traders co-funded it. You know, we had some buy-in. The development's been put back because we've been pulled down this year. Unfortunately, we've seen social problems we haven't seen for a couple of years with those empty shops. Now, why I came late to this campaign this year is because I've been working on that, getting shops back in there. Thank God we've got pop-ups in there, but that's not a solution. The only way we're going to feel safe in our own community, and these problems aren't unique to St Kilda, that's the problem. We have empty streets, and empty streets alone. You walk through a car park and it's empty and there's no one else there, you get scared. Yeah.
Thank you, David. Robbie?
Yeah, I think we have to be real about, I guess, what we can do and what we can't do. We don't control the police. We don't decide what is and isn't a crime. But we have a really important role to play as a partner. How we work with the police constructively, it can be frustrating at times because they won't necessarily take the approach we want them to. But that relationship is important. It's difficult, but it's important. How we work with service providers is really important. And then how we design public spaces. We need to design public space. I think the other candidates have kind of alluded to it. The more people in the street, the safer you feel. The better the lighting, the better the design, the safer people will feel. And so I think that kind of mix of things is how we kind of deal with it. I think we actually are doing a lot of the right things at the moment. I think the challenge ultimately, as other candidates have said, we're in the middle of a housing crisis, the cost of living crisis, the tide is going against us, and no matter how hard we paddle, we're going to have these challenges. But we need to keep at it. We can't kind of get despondent and give up. We can't, when we get annoyed at the police, quit. We just have to keep
Robbie.
working at it.
Serge?
So I'll be the radical here. To fix these problems, we actually need an excellent liaison between the police and the council. And I'm told by the people, that that's actually not the case. At the moment, there is no working relationship or relation of trust between the police and council. I'm sorry, but I've been told that's not the case.
Thank you for no heckling, please.
So the thing is, that's the first thing that needs to be improved, and there should be, as in my case, when I was a councillor, there was actually a person that was dealing with the police and met them regularly to deal with problems. That is important. That is a good relation to trust built on one person, And for me, that is paramount to establish a good relationship between the police and the city and all the other services.
Thank you for your question. Next audience question, please.
Hello. Would the councillors agree that there is a symbiotic relationship between restaurants and the nightclub industry or the nightlife industry that is currently lacking at the moment? So at the moment, there is no nightclubs. Basically, all nightlife entertainment has disappeared because either council or other EPA reasons have obviously destroyed the nightlife. So that is having a knock-on effect because people are not going to restaurants because there's nothing to go to afterwards. So what is the council doing in terms to assist with nightlife entertainment in St Kilda?
Thank you. We'll go, Serge. You've got the microphone.
Well, again, I suppose St Kilda used to be the nightclub scene, but everybody has moved into the city. And so how we can, I certainly don't support a nightclub on the St Kilda Triangle site as it's currently looked at by the council. Talking to the state government, trying to find some money, which they haven't got. So, and owning a restaurant, I know exactly how it is. I can see the benefits when there is staff at the National or at the Palais or others. So whatever we can do to bring people to the area will benefit restaurants, including, I said, I've got a conflict of interest here. The more stuff that happens, the more people it will bring to our tables and spend the money. So, and it's hard, very tough to run restaurants nowadays, I can tell you, especially when the bus bill arrives.
Thank you, Robbie.
Well, we partly need to accept that the economy's changed. I grew up in Bayside, and back then you couldn't drink anywhere, really, if you were a young person after about 8 p.m. And that's completely changed now. Across the suburbs, you can drink, you can go to clubs. And so we don't have a monopoly on that anymore. I think ultimately it's about having good quality venues, having great quality night venues, restaurants, and I guess council can work with those kind of organisations. Like the work we're doing in the live music precinct is about how we get the zoning right, because that has huge impacts in the end on how you deliver those kind of venues. But we also have to accept that the demographics are a bit different, St Kilda is a bit older now. We're not necessarily going to have the kind of nightlife we once did, and that's okay. We need to be catering for the residents that actually live here and not kind of looking back 20 years. We've got to deliver what people want, and I think that's kind of the main focus, especially on the high streets. Let's not talk about what they were like 20 years ago. How are they going to be vibrant today?
David?
St Kilda's had a visitation economy since the 1880s, and it still does. If the businesses, as I said earlier on, 2.5 million tickets sold in St Kilda, that's paid tickets. Then there's all the free events. The National Theatre has 3,000 people for the year. Everyone there spends $75 outside the venue. So I walked, the other day I was walking around St Kilda, I counted 30 venues that do live music every week. But I understand it's totally stressed, and there's music has changed. I don't want to look at excuses. I want to make things better. Now, I was the only candidate at the Arts for it. I thought live music and the live music precinct was important. Was worthy of mention. And thank you, councillors, for supporting it. There are things we can do to make things easier, but we would have a collapse in the local economy if we did not have live music and the arts. And that's number one industry here, and it always has been and it always will be. We need businesses for the daytime for the locals, but we have a nighttime economy.
Tim?
I agree with all of that. I would dispute the idea that Port Phillip Council is responsible through being, through blocking nightclubs or shutting them down or anything like that. I don't think that's the case. I think what has happened in the past 15 years or so is that the agent of change principle has been, started to be embedded in planning law. More other municipalities, as Robbie was saying, have cottoned on to the benefits of that nightlife, and we've seen things move to other areas. So where we used to be a leader in that space, others cottoned on, copied what we did, and did well out of it. So again, as someone, there's economic issues here. As someone who used to run a nightclub here 20 years ago, we shouldn't talk about 20 years ago, but who's got the money to go out to a nightclub these days and buy a bunch of drinks? Most of the young people are staying in or going to house parties or something, because why would you? So we have to recognise that. Oh, shit.
Thanks, Tim. Colleen?
Well, with my nightclub days family behind me, I'm not sure I'm qualified to comment. I would say that For socialists, it's not really about preferring one kind of business venture to another, and our concern would much more be about firstly, what kind of service provision the council can provide, and secondly, for the businesses that are in the area, and particularly hospitality, are they paying their young workers that probably also rent in the area a livable wage, or at least commensurate with award wages?
Keep that. Next audience question.
Thanks, Bernadene. My name's Hugo Armstrong. I'm the president of the Albert Park Sports Clubs Association. We seek to represent about 6,000 members, more than 24 clubs playing sport throughout the year in Albert Park. And of course, there are many thousands more local residents who use Albert Park for other reasons, all sorts of recreational and passive and environmental reasons as well. The Port Phillip Council has traditionally turned its back on Albert Park because it's run by the state and poorly funded through Albert Park. There is no connection, no investment, no guidance. Do you agree with the proposition, A, that this is an incredibly unstrategic approach for the council to take, not taking an interest and being actively involved in 2/3 of its open space? And B, how do you feel about the proposition of council seeking to become a co-manager of Albert Park so that you can use that, see that resource better used in the interest
Thanks,
of
Hugo. Okay, it's two-part question. You got that? Colleen, you're up.
Well, I'm old enough to remember the Save Albert Park campaign, and one of the reasons that I am happy to stand in St Kilda is because I think this is an area that has been shaped by its local activism, and so of course the council can and should play a role alongside the users and the state government in looking after what is a real treasure of our community.
Tim?
Thanks, Hugo. Look, well, and that's me. Greg doesn't want to hear from me. No, look, I appreciate the question. I think it's actually a really thorny one, right? This is an issue where the state government, through Parks Victoria, manages a huge number of facilities within Albert Park Reserve, from MSAC through to all sorts of sporting infrastructure, event venues and so on. And they couldn't give a rat's about it. Honestly, they severely underfunded. Their master plan is going nowhere. It's something that they would love to simply not deal with, and the infrastructure is crumbling. I think council absolutely should play some kind of a role here. Most of the people who utilise these sports facilities and so on are generally residents of the city of Port Phillip, although there's plenty of people that come from elsewhere as well. But so do our beaches, get that as well. So I would say we should play some kind of role. I'm very, very hesitant to take on that funding burden, because we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. We can't do that. We simply cannot afford to do that. The state needs to be stepping up there. So, but I'm happy to do advocacy and play that role.
Thank you, Tim. David?
My daughter practices hockey there, and I find it quite offensive that you go there to do something healthy and you have to pay for car parking, but that's a state government issue. As a traders, we've been trying to engage with National Parks, and not National Parks, sorry, Parks Victoria. We have, through council staff, also trying to engage with and have a better relationship and a better outcome for particularly Fitzroy Street. We can maybe activate that, different things like a chess set and stuff like that. So I don't think it's something that council can take on financially, but I'd like to see better talking between both bodies. We are really blessed by the public spaces for here, and it's a life. When people say go north side, it's a lifestyle place here between the beach and the park. But yeah, I certainly know there's some issues there, but we should certainly have an open conversation. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Robbie.
Yeah, I definitely am really concerned about the state of Albert Park. I think, as somebody who worked with Parks Victoria in state government on behalf of ministers, they can be a very difficult agency to deal with. They're not really geared to do a kind of community level engagement. They're better at running a national park, so they're not really designed to be running a metropolitan park. I think if we can get ourselves a better seat at the table, that would definitely deliver better outcomes. But I think the other candidates have alluded to it, there's a giant money question that needs to be resolved. We have a really fantastic master plan, actually, that was delivered by the state government, but it's not being delivered. We've had, I think, 6 years now since the master plan was approved, and there's been really little infrastructure upgrades. I mean, even the green bollards next to the road are like falling over. So I think how we deal with that money question is going to be crucial. Maybe it's time for a council campaign. Definitely continue to work with Hugo and find an answer, because it's definitely a really big challenge, and it's one that affects everyone because we all use Albert Park Reserve.
Serge.
I agree with everything that was said, and I know, Hugo, you met with Levi and Beverly last week to discuss issues and a way forward. The biggest burden for a city is the swimming pool, and we are very lucky in Port Phillip is that the swimming pool is actually paid by the state government. And obviously we wouldn't want to co-manage the swimming pool, but that would definitely not be something very affordable with a very high increase in rates. So I think it's important that we work all together, and that this happened. I think the master plan was even in my time. It was 8 years ago. So it's important that we work together and advocate as much as we can, because at the end we are the main users of the park, and and obviously the race is going to stay for a bit longer, even if some people don't like it. We should take advantage of the space we've got and make sure that it is in good nick for everybody to enjoy.
Thank you. Next audience question.
Hi,
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Pam. I've got a good news story about state government and local government, council, because they built us a new fantastic eco centre, which will be open very soon. So my question to all of you is, if you become elected, will you support the ongoing running of the eco centre, and also programs so that the eco centre can help the people of Port Phillip know and learn about climate change?
Serge.
Well, I supported the rebuild of the Eco Centre back 10 years ago, and I'm glad that it happened, and eventually the state government put the money that was needed. After great efforts from you and your group, I certainly support the Eco Centre and what you do, and I think you're doing great work, and it's obviously bigger than just the City of Port Phillip. It's important that all the kids and the schools that come through, including all the adults, are made aware of climate issues, and I certainly think we should support what you do, or find other ways to find money to support you if it's not council money.
Thank you. Robbie?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's one of the most fantastic organisations, institutions in Port Phillip. I think we should all be extremely proud of what the Eco Centre delivers us. I fought really hard this council term to get some additional funding for weekend openings. I'm really glad that we got that over the line. There's still more money that needs to be put in, because you are our key community partner to delivering on our climate emergency, our biodiversity emergency actions. I think there are so many things that the Eco Centre can do in that space that council just isn't going to be as nimble or as able to do. So it's not simply a matter of providing more money to this other organisation. It actually delivers our climate goals and provides us with a number of environmental benefits for a lot cheaper than what would be for council to do it. So yeah, I'm really keen to see us properly, fully fund the new building, because ultimately we've put $3 million in, so we should, make the most of what we've got and actually fund the organisation itself.
Thank you. David?
I went to one of your classes with a school group down to West St Kilda, and I now eat saltbush all the time. I just always have a nibble when I go by. I'm not sure it's a bylaw against that or not. I think the work you do is amazing. I do. Is it you want full funding or not? I mean, going forward, I think state needs to, and also even some partnerships with it. I think everyone thinks council can just increase budget. It can't, and we have many things. My thing about the environment, are we down near the skate park? There's a bit of triangle land that's not used. Should we rehabilitate, put sand dunes back there, natural vegetation? So, I'm open to it. I need to have, be better educated, I guess. But there's many ways for environment. And I think hopefully environment these days, I was talking to someone before, it's just a default. That's how we go about it. And thank you.
Thanks, David. Tim?
Thanks, Pam. So, the Eco Centre has often been the favourite punching bag of certain councillors over the years, but I've always been a big supporter. I know that the Eco Centre is actually better than any other organisation I know at diversifying its revenue and getting grants from different levels of government. So when people say the state should step up, they are, because you're getting them to. So I think that, the value that we get out of the funding that we're putting into the Eco Centre is magnified many, many times, and there's mountains of evidence to show that is the case. And you're delivering, as Robbie said, on those things better than we could, and engaging with our community on all of these environmental issues, whether it be climate change, adaptation, local sustainability, citizen science, in a way that we never could. And I'm so glad that you guys are there, and I can't wait for the new building to be open. Whether I'm on council or not, I hope to be at the opening.
Thanks, Tim. And Colleen?
Just congratulations on the expansion and your work with it, and the work that all your group has done.
Thank you. Next audience question, please.
Hi, Rhonda Small, St Kilda. I've got a simple question, and that's about rates. We've got a current council where we've had councillors wanting a rate freeze every year, so I'd really like a clear answer from each of you about whether you will be advocating for a rates freeze, and if so, why? And if you're not going to advocate for a rates freeze, please tell us why not. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleen, we'll go with you.
I will not be advocating for a rates freeze, because the only way that the council can continue to provide services that it does run and to make accessible it is necessary to ask more of the people who, based on their land values, can afford to pay more. And I think particularly with some of the debates around privatising the childcare service, the in-home aged care, it is absolutely essential that those things remain well funded by council.
Go back to you, Tim.
So a couple of things. Obviously, council needs those rates to provide services to the entire community. A rates freeze would only benefit landowners, and the 50% of our community that aren't landowners, who are renters, would receive zero benefit from that. But retaining that money and continuing to provide the high quality services that we do benefits everybody. So it seems to me to be a no-brainer to continue to utilise our rates income. Our costs are increasing as inflation goes up, whether it's construction, whether it's wages or whatever. We need to be able to continue to do that. And any candidate that says that they can freeze your rates or cut your rates and continue to provide the services at the same time without any cuts in those services is lying to you. It is simply not the case. The budget is right there for anyone to look at, and we've had 4 years of councillors who've been very, very strongly giving that message, and they haven't found that money.
David?
We all like to pay less tax when it comes to it. I tell you, it's been a hard year in business. But on saying that, I'm about responsible management. And to cut the spending base at the moment when the council's costs are increasing and maintaining services, I'm sorry, I don't think a rates cut is on the or freeze at the moment would not work. Councils, like everyone that has a tradie in their house or something like that, there's a lot of cost pressures on council. But that doesn't mean we want lazy local government. We want efficiencies, because a lot of places need money. But the simple answer is no.
Thank you. Robbie?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the only renter on council, so I don't get a rates notice at the end of the year. But I can tell you that when we didn't increase the rates of the full rate cap, and I speak to a lot of friends about it who are also renters, no one benefited from that. Yes, obviously, if you were a rate payer, you didn't have to get a slightly larger rate bill that year, but not a single renter benefited. And I think when we're talking about this challenge, we often talk about it in cost of living terms, but we know if we reduce the tax burden proportionally by wealth, it means that the wealthiest will get the largest tax cut, and the half of our community who are renters get nothing. We also have to be real about it. We have a rate cap now, which means it's not just a cut that particular year, it's actually cut every year into the future. If we didn't have a rate cap, and we could, hold rates at a particular level one year, but we could make up the difference the next year if the economic situation changed, you could consider it. But you can't in the environment where that cart compounds every single year into the forward budget. And when you sit in council and look at those budgets, you just can't do that.
Serge.
I was quite upset when the aged care services were cut a few months ago. I think those elderly people deserve to be looked after, and I've actually spent quite a bit of time at council with some of those officers, and they're doing a really great job. And it's not just a matter of just going and bringing them food, but actually to check on their well-being. It is greatly. And there's no one better than dedicated council officers to do that. So when it comes to rate cuts, I think, as I explained before, I think there is a lot of distrust between the council and the residents, and if a better relationship and more trust can be built between council and the residents, they will understand better why the rates are going up or going down or whatever happens, if they know exactly where the money is spent, and if there's a trust between. And I suggest that there maybe should be an independent audit to look at staff level or others to see if there are some savings to be done.
Thank you.
But without cutting services. I'm talking about middle management.
Okay, keep the microphone there, Serge. Next audience question.
Excellent. I think you might be able to pick up on my question. My question's on governance and corporate culture at council. Obviously, picking up on Robbie's point, we all have the ambition where every interaction with council is a positive one. Certainly, as a resident who hasn't always had that experience, it does make you question what's going on here with the culture at council or with the leadership at council, to the extent where obviously the issue of the bin tender last year and the fact that it looks like there's serious governance issues. My question to council to candidates is, how do you rate the current leadership and governance at council? And what do you think is your role, if you were to be elected, in improving that?
Thank you. And what was your name again, sorry?
Simon Rashid.
Simon. Okay. Serge.
So I've got a microphone, so I've sort of spoken for 2 minutes or before about a better governed city. So that obviously is part of that. I think it's important that people trust what council is doing. And when you look at the different, like from the bins, from the delays in infrastructure, etc., something needs to be done. What I'm told is that people want a new council, they want a new direction. So that's what I'm prepared to give, and with our team to make sure that, as I said, that people are engaged with the council and believe or think that they belong to this city.
Thank you, Robbie.
Yeah, look, it's never going to be perfect, right? But I think it can be a lot better. I guess my reflection after 2 years, having been, and I'm the only one who's ever sat in any kind of government position outside of council, right? I've sat with ministers, I've read briefings from departments. Ours are not as good as they could be. A lot of that's actually about the councillor group. It's about how we ask questions. It's about how we as a group decide to make decisions. It's about how we interrogate the advice that we're given. And I think that's been lacking because the only advice they've ever received is from those officers. They've never had any other government experience. They don't have any other reference point. And I found that frustrating at times, so I kind of say, well, this could be written better. Not that I'd say Tim or someone else would necessarily disagree, but I think we need to have those skills to interrogate, and that's why you need councillors who understand how government works, because it does start ultimately with the elected officials. If we're not asking the right questions, if we're not able to interrogate through and understand what our role is and understand how the system should be working, then you're going to have bad outcomes. And I think the waste debacle last year was a great example of that. We had subtle pushes that ultimately led to a terrible outcome.
Thanks, Robbie. David.
My years in dealing with councils is vastly improved. That's from a business perspective. We've actually driven it too. We've got a business concierge, and they've been amazingly responsive and they're on the game. I know other areas are more difficult still, and I think we need to improve the interface between the community and the council, and with simplification of the website. There's different ways to do it. I think there's a lack of informing the community about the council, but at the same time, what they do and what sponsors, etc. So people come in and misinformed. But we all have horror stories about dealing with the council, certain departments, stuff, and I have had previously. So I think accountability needs to be addressed, when things do go wrong. But it's improving, but it needs to improve, and it will never be perfect. It has to always improve and evolve. So, but yeah, thanks for sharing, and yeah, I'll give you some emails if you want.
Tim.
Yeah, look, I can see what you're saying. I think that bureaucracies can sometimes have a mind of their own, and generally they work better when kept on a pretty tight leash by the elected representatives. And that's not to have a go at them. They are professionals. They're experts in their job. They do amazing work, right? These officers. Sometimes they do shit work, but often they are very, very good, and I don't want to disparage them. But I think what has happened on this council is that serious political differences on council can be fine. They've become personal differences on council, right? I would describe this particular council as dysfunctional, where you've got councillors who aren't talking to each other except to shout at each other. And I can talk to everyone, but I can tell you there's councillors that aren't talking to each other, coupled with a real lack of desire from the more established councillors, I suppose, to accept any conflict at all.
Thanks, Tim. Colleen.
I don't think it's my place to comment on the culture between councillors currently, but
my question was really around the bureaucracy, not about councillors.
Yeah, one thing I do think is really worrying is the way that there are codes of conduct that are used to, I think, silence legitimate debate and criticism and discipline councillors who've been democratically elected. And I think that we need to try to resist that as a management way of a management tool for legitimate and sometimes, of course, there will be heated debates. And it is important that councillors are free to report on what has happened through their social media channels. And the other cultural issue I see is that long-standing residents who own property are more engaged than renters.
We'll go to the next audience question, and then I'm going to ask one myself. And then, there's another person that's jumped on the end.
Hi, my name's Michelle. I have a question about the St Kilda Triangle site, and my question is, well, firstly, some background for anybody else who doesn't know. That St Kilda Triangle site has been a car park for, 10 years? Longer? 15? 18? God knows. Forever. Ever since a community grassroots campaign got together to save the St Kilda Triangle, well, we saved it. We turned it into a car park. Somewhere between $300,000 and $500,000 has been spent on plans.
Thank you. Your question,
if you are elected, how quickly will you make a final decision on what to do with that park, that triangle, and will you do it in your term?
Thank you. All right, Colleen, we'll start with you.
Again, I think I'm the least qualified, but I think the campaign to stop the development that was very unpopular and that, I acknowledge Serge, was a very important part of that, has been very important. I think there needs to be action, and there has already been a lot of community consultation about it. And there needs to be a decision. The right decision, I'm not the best place to say what that is, but yeah.
Yeah, look, it's really interesting. The original triangle proposal was really only there as a way to try to save the Palais, right? And the Palais's been saved, so what do we do with the rest of that site? I'm more than happy to do investigations and look into what the market could potentially provide here, but generally we need a partner with big bucks, and that means the state government. The state government's not going to be putting any money into this site anytime soon. So personally, I'm in favour of actually letting the mountain come to us on that one, and just seeing, now that we've done some exploratory work, seeing what is out there and seeing who is interested in coming and working with us, rather than trying to push an issue in an economic downturn where no one's opening up their wallets at the moment. It's a tough thing, because I want to see community benefits out of that site. I really do. I want to see it as a gathering place. I want to see it with open space benefits. I want I have a wonderful vision of what it could be. Nothing's getting built at the moment, I think.
So we go into another decade of no
Thank you, David.
It's a priority for me. I'm totally behind the triangle. This time they've done it right. They've gone out to the market first. They've got a number of operators who want to run it. We have it's a historic site that goes back to the early 1920s. It's been the only thing to make the next one fireproof, please, because the last two have burnt down. And even the last, I've seen grandiose projects that no one's ever going to be on. It'd be nice to have the Guggenheim there. But is that going to bring, is it ever going to happen? Let's have something that's achievable, something that is, we had a meeting with all the different venues in the room. I heard someone say, it's going to affect Freddie Nyaguy playing to 20 people at Johnny's. No, it's not. Freddie Nyaguy is not going to be playing to 2,000 people standing up. And all those venues supported the triangle. We need a win in this suburb and something to attach to. So, yeah.
Thanks, David.
Yes.
Robbie?
We just got to stop wasting money on plans. We've spent so much money, it's embarrassing. It actually makes me really angry. That's why I've started voting against it. I think when I first got elected, like every councillor before me, I kind of saw the mirage and got drunk on the idea. It's a really exciting site, don't get me wrong. It is one of the most exciting sites in Melbourne for development, but it is a thief and it just steals your time and your money. I would like us to do some tree planting, fix up the pavement around it. We've done nothing on the infrastructure on that site in the last 20 years. But I will not support further planning and navel gazing and vanity projects. It actually offends me, and it should offend all of you, that we have spent more than $10 million, I suspect, if you counted all of it together, on plans, on master plan after master plan after master plan. I don't support any more committees or master plans or thought-gazing exercises. We have to just stop doing that. If something comes along, great, but until that time, let's just plant some trees and move on.
Thank you. Serge?
Obviously, I've only got 1 minute. So I actually personally think that we actually never properly looked at what could happen on the site. We've done plans with the thing, but we have never looked concretely at what. We talked even in my time about the NGV Contemporary, to have that on the site. No one has ever spoken to Tony Elwood about it. Maybe that would have been a good idea. So for me, the council can't do it on its own. In fact, council can't do it. So the state government and federal, both Martin Foley back at the time and Josh Burns, have committed to provide some money for a business case as long as the council was partnering with it. And for the last 6 years, council has refused to partner with state and federal and use that money. So this money is still on the table, and I would like to have a proper business case looked at. And I would like, as I explained before, to have a reference group of people who travel, who have got good knowledge of what's happening in the world, to see what we can do and where the money can come from, because it will not be federal money or state money. It will be private or corporate.
Thank you, Serge.
And I want this reference group to be chaired by someone very prominent
now,
that
I've
will
got
open doors.
one question left from me, and then we'll go to your two questions. But I'm going to change it, Greg. 30-second response from the candidates, otherwise we're going to be here all night. But my question before, if you don't mind, I would like to ask each candidate how to vote, your how to vote preferences and why that order. But 30 seconds to respond.
I can start.
Oh, okay, Serge.
I can start, and I can say for the very first time, and I've run for several elections, I'm actually not going to follow my how to vote card. I've never done it before. I put Jenni as number 2, as she's a good, strong independent, and I'm really, really sorry. She rang me today 3 times in tears, and I know where it comes from, and mostly some people in the room were responsible for what happened to her today, and it doesn't look very good for the future culture of the council. So I was happy to put her as number 2. I've decided to put Robbie as third, as I think he is a better counsellor than the fourth one.
Robbie,
and I put I put Blakeley last because
that's 30 seconds.
Because I support a live music venue, which I don't support.
Robbie.
I've obviously put myself first. I've put David second. I've put Serge third. Tim fourth. Jenni 5th, Colleen 6th. Why? Ultimately, it's a complicated metrics, but for me, it's a combination of people I think will make good councillors, people whose platform I agree with, and people who I think have a genuine commitment to local government and care and love local government the way I do. And I guess that's kind of the mix, and that's how I would be voting.
Thank you, Robbie. David?
I didn't have a preference thing happening until this week. I've, unfortunately, like Jenni, I've had awful stuff happen to me in my family, my house, and and other councillors have. So I've actually put councillors I respect as councillors. I disagree with these two quite a bit. It's hard to think, but I respect their views, and I hope to be respected back. We all want a council that's going to work together, if they agree or disagree. So I put Tim second, Robbie third, Serge fourth, apart from the music thing, and Colleen, because I didn't really know you until today, and Jenni last. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Tim?
Yep. So we've done our preferences based on people's platforms and how much their policies align with the Greens and with myself. So obviously me first. Then we've got Colleen, then Robbie, then David, then Serge, then Jenni Roper.
Thank you. Colleen?
Vic Socialists preference left to right as generally, and so we are preferencing Tim and the Greens second. I'm preferencing Robbie third, Serge fourth, David fifth, and Jenni last.
Thank you very much. Next audience question.
Thank you. Yes, my name's Peter Moraitis, and my question is, I'll just preface it first by saying that we've had a climate emergency declaration from Council and more recently a climate emergency implementation plan. Many of us think it's an inadequate plan. We'd like to know what your top 3 priorities are in terms of addressing the climate crisis, and we'd like to know how you plan or how you feel you can work with other councillors to address the climate crisis locally. Thanks.
Thanks, Peter. 30 seconds, please. Colleen.
I spoke about housing being one driver that council can use. I also think tree canopy aligns with the use and of our open spaces. And thirdly, I'm a socialist, and to deal with the climate crisis, we need to get rid of capitalism.
There you go. Tim.
Okay. You can start me now. Okay. All right. So, my top priorities, I think I've got a really good track record in terms of pushing for acquisition of new public green open space for the area, and want to continue doing that. Greening our urban forest strategy. I spoke in council about how I will accept that now, but push to improve that on any new council, because I do not think it goes far enough. And as the person who was the mover of the climate emergency declaration, I will want to improve our Act and Adapt sustainability strategy and climate emergency action plan.
Thank you. David?
I think climate should be a default now, 101. But it's how we go about and how we prioritise. I think we look at efficiencies in council buildings, the new future fleets, etc., vehicles, the tree canopy, as we say, and I think an open-mindedness in street design, and we have a responsibility, moving forward. I imagine under planning, you could guys correct me, sea levels, stuff like that, and plan.
Thank you, David. Robbie?
Yeah, I think number one for me is governance. It's how we get a coherent plan that is actually actioned across all of the agencies of council, not just the Environment Department, but every single agency has climate forefront of their mind. I think the second one is really about community. I think working with community partners like the Eco Centre, there's a lot of work that we can do on community emissions and community changes that can be delivered through working with Eco Centre and others. And the final one is greening. We have so many opportunities to plant more trees, to depave, to do biodiversity planting. So, yeah, those are my 3.
Thanks, Robbie. And Serge?
So first, I'm disappointed that PECAN has no, as if people like we're getting as a candidate, we receive pledges right, left, and centers, and everybody wants us to sign pledges. And as a group, we are independent, but everybody does what they want. But as a group, we decided that we're not going to sign pledges to everything because we want to keep an open mind. So it's not because of that we haven't got an agenda that is green as the others. And I'm thinking more at a positive way of looking at the environment and things that are tangible, talking about greening, trees, urban heat islands, shade, biodiversity, and other things. And in a couple of days,
Thank you,
we're going to be
Serge.
issuing our policies on our website.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. And our last audience question for tonight, tacked on at the end.
Thank you, Bernadene. My name's John Patrick. I live locally. We have to choose not only who we put first, but how we rank each of you down the ballot. And all of us in this room have to do that, right? So I would like each of you to tell us, right, that what policies or beliefs you will bring as a councillor that separates you from everyone else on this panel.
In 30 seconds, please. Tim, you're up first.
I think for me, it's probably the experience in being able to make progressive change on council sets me apart, as well as the continual drive and not taking my eye off the ball. If there's things that are important, they remain important until they get addressed.
We'll go Colleen next, and then we'll go Serge.
You should vote for Socialist because the problems that beset us are so urgent and of such a scale that we need more radical solutions than what is often on offer from the mainstream political parties.
Serge?
But when I ran 8 years ago, the slogan was a 24/7 councillor, and that's the way I intend to be. I'm available to everyone. I've responded to all my emails. I've responded to all my phone calls when I was at council for 8 years, and I certainly continue to do that. So I think the proximity, there are people here, councils I've rang several times and never returned my phone calls. So I have always done that because it's important that we talk to the people. If people actually bother to ring you, you deserve to ring them back.
Thank you, Serge. Robbie?
I think it's the fact that I have government experience both in and outside of local government, but I think it's also that I think local government is transformative. I think it is so special and can do so much to make our communities so vibrant and so wonderful places to live. And yeah, I think I just kind of want to keep doing that. I love it.
And David?
We've been agreeing too much. I volunteer 20 hours a week, non-paid at the moment. And I'm a hard worker, I'm dogmatic, and I'm like a dog with a bone, I won't give up. But importantly, I will deal with my fellow councillors, and it's going to be, we've got councillors, potential councillors in St Kilda, we've got to deal with councillors from all over Port Phillip, all of want their patch looked after, and I will fight for St Kilda. Be nice to the other councillors, of course.
So maybe we should have all of you as our councillors.
Thank you. Now, we're going to hear closing statements from each councillor and that's a slip of the candidate. And please limit your time to 1 minute. So first up's Colleen, and we did this by the selecting of the cards, so this is the order. And Colleen got number 1. Up you come. You can sit there or you can come to the podium.
Well, I feel like I just gave my pitch in a nutshell just before. I think it might be the first time in a long time or ever that you voted for a socialist, but I think that doing so sends a message to the major parties that people that they shouldn't be taking more progressive-minded people for granted. We have, while I'm unlikely to win in this area, we are hopeful that we will have more socialist councillors to build on our one in Fitzroy coming from this election, and we intend to stand in the at least in the state seat and to continue to contest and with a real possibility of having our first socialist in at least state parliament in the next election cycle. And so if you agree with Vic's socialist platform, and you can read it on the website, and what I've spoken about tonight in terms of opposing privatisation, housing and climate justice, then do support me, and it's a vote for the future success, we hope, for Vic Socialists.
Thank you, Colleen. Next up is David. Yep. Give her a round of applause. Yay!
Surprise, surprise, I don't actually want to be a councillor, but I just want to make a difference, a positive difference. And that's why I've put my hand up. I guess, what do I bring? I bring a fresh set of eyes. I bring a guy who comes with many different ideas, and some are left field and some work, but the thing is I work hard. I've got a long history of working hard, and I will work. I'll be like I said before, I'm a dog with a bone. I'm open to listen to people. I'm only a coffee away from you or a beer in the afternoon. I'm a local when it comes down to it, and I love this area, and there's too much for me for this area to fail. It's great, it needs to be better. Thank you.
Thanks, David. We have Tim next.
Look, I think over the years I've demonstrated that I can work with any councillor of any political stripe without compromising my values. So we'll be in the chamber and we can vehemently disagree about stuff, have a really spirited debate. But on the issues that we can find agreement on, I'm right there trying to find that solution. I'm completely outcomes focused. You know what outcomes I'm looking for and the values that I have, and I will work with whoever I need to work with in order to advance those and get those done. I always show up. I've always got a smile for you. I will work with you no matter who you are to get that outcome. And I think that's the kind of person that works in that council, collegiate kind of environment to actually get things done rather than just glaring at each other across the table.
Thank you, Tim. Serge?
Hopefully this debate, we've been all very polite here on stage and agree on lots of things. As I explained before, I think what's the most important is I want to build and rebuild the relationship between council and the community. I think it's very important. This is nothing is going to get done if there's no trust. And at the moment, I believe there is no trust between council and the community. This is, for me, the number one priority. And I think that's when it's important to have someone who is independent, non-aligned with any interest group, political party, who has experience, who did a few things in his time, and has got a very good knowledge of the local area, and is very approachable and will also give you a smile, as Tim said. So, I do say that I do regret what happened today, and that there's one of the candidates is not here on the table, and the people who are responsible of that, they should look at themselves. There's nothing wrong about having a go at people about issues and policies, but when it becomes personal, it's just something that should not happen. We live in a democracy, and everybody is allowed to stand and applaud.
Thank you,
Everybody's
Serge.
prepared to put their hand up.
Thank you. And our last candidate to speak tonight, Robbie.
Thank you for all coming along tonight. It's been a very interesting 18 months for me coming in halfway through, but despite all the challenges, and don't get me wrong, it's been challenging at times, it's been a very difficult environment, I'm still as enthusiastic and as excited as I was on day one about local government. I think we are, people always say we're the closest to the people, and it's a bit of a glib statement, but it is so true. We have an ability to build community like no other level of government can. We have an ability to make people's lives better in a way that no other level of government can. I think when we fully grasp the potential of local government in every little service that we do, we can build a better society, a better community, a better St Kilda. I think when local government's working for us and when it's working for St Kilda, we will all have better lives for it. And I continue to be enthusiastic about that, and I hope that we can continue to deliver that over the next 4 years.
Thank you. Well, that brings us to the end. Thanks to the candidates for tonight and your willingness in particular to want to be a service to the community. It's absolutely awesome. Please give them a round of applause. Thanks also to Greg Day from TWiSK. Yay! He's organised this entire event and his unique independent coverage of local news and council. So amazing. Thank you so much, Greg. Okay, so you'll be able to view the video of the event at the TWiSK website. Thanks also to the Pride Centre and to Brad Every for the live streaming the event. And also, before closing, you're invited to stay for a cuppa and a chat with the candidates. So if you didn't get that question out, you can go and bug them now. And so we're here until 8:30 p.m. So finally, I'd just like to thank you all for coming and participating in local democracy. It's fantastic. Thank you very much and good night.
And a big thanks to Bernadene for emceeing as well. Well done.
Thank you.